You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hello, I'm Steven Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and he is Tom Vanderford, the voice of the fan. He's the mayor of Corinth. He's coming like he always does, even though this is a Sunday morning and not a Saturday morning. How you doing, Tommy?
Doing wonderful, man.
I am really excited right now because my big boss, like the big corporate boss, put out like the listening stats of everybody. I am in the top 10 in college sports in both video and audio, awesome. And I am number 5 in the SEC in both of them. Pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's always fun to do that, and we're doing like some test stuff. Like the numbers are blowing up because we have the live stream that's coming through there. We're going to do like several really cool things with AI over the next couple of weeks. I mean, this football season is going to be all about blowing it out this football season.
It's exciting. It's exciting because I remember when I just answered basically what was a little personal ad on Twitter a few years ago and said, "Hey, I'm starting this new thing, man. Anybody want to be a guest?" Yeah, long way.
Yeah, and that was back in the time when I was not in the business of saying no.
Right. Thank goodness.
Yeah, and now we're all here having a good time, and you know, with fall camp well underway, and in fact, it'll probably be over the next couple of days this week. What are the main takeaways that you have from fall camp whenever you've perused all the practice reports and everything? What's the things that stood out?
Well, number one, you know, any other year I'd be devastated that we haven't seen Deion Smith practice yet. But we are so deep at receiver, it gives me comfort. I think that's a big deal that I've noticed. Don't know what the holdup is, but in the past it would have crushed my soul, and not so much with the roster we have. But I'm loving the fact that the big uglies are doing good, the offensive line and the defensive line. You know, you win at the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I really love is I saw something on Twitter earlier. I forget who posted it, but it was basically saying, you know, ranking the SEC football teams after what these people have heard in fall practice. And Georgia was number 1, but Ole Miss was number 2. So, you know, yeah, we're really about to embark on an incredible season.
Yeah, and it's a situation where the top running back for Texas and the third running back for Texas they're out for the year.
Right.
So they have a backup, their backup running back, and then they're going to move a wide receiver there to play running back. So Texas at number 4 in the country, they're probably at best 7 or 8 right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and, you know, we've talked about it in past shows, past seasons, but, you know, injuries, man, that can affect a team. But once again, we've never had this kind of depth. Never.
No, it's absolutely nuts. I think I did a show earlier last week that it was about Cam Franklin. It was about freshmen. And it's a situation to where Cam Franklin in 40 out of 45 years of my life coming here would be expected to come to Ole Miss and play 40 snaps as a true freshman.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, and William Eccles, the same thing.
Yeah, him and Eccles.
Yeah, that's not the case this year. They just get to learn how to play ball and get ready to go for next year. Next year is going to be their year. They get to develop.
Yeah.
We're not in a situation to where we're counting on newcomers to play. It's really, really bizarre.
Yeah, I don't think people outside of Ole Miss or outside of us homers realize just how close we are to the Alabamas and Georgias of the SEC. We've got the depth, we've got experience, we've got talent. It's amazing. Yeah, we would have been hoping that the JUCO could step right in and master the defense, the JUCO linebacker. We would hope that Deion Smith could come in and be our premier wide receiver. Speaking of that, I know you've talked about it, but it's kind of scary that Kiffin said that Trey Harris is the most improved in fall camp.
Yeah, everybody should be afraid if that's true.
Yeah, especially with our other wide receiver arsenal, and of course, we had Mr. Lee said that he thought we had the best wide receiver core in the nation. So we'll be all right.
I've been saying that for months, though.
Oh yeah. Today at work, I had an Alabama fan tell me, "Oh, y'all going to be hurting without your running back, without Quinshon," and I'm like, "No, we're good.
Yeah, we're fine. Yeah,
we're fine, man. We're fine."
People don't realize about Quinshon. Quinshon was a good running back, okay?
Yes.
But do you know that he was the lowest yards per carry running back in the history of Lane Kiffin coach teams?
Exactly.
In 2023, he was not particularly good. He was a volume running back in 2023. In 2022, he was good. He was really good.
Yeah. But you're right. In 2023, he was a volume running back. He did have a lower yard per carry. And, I'll give him this. I didn't see him fumble the whole season. But when you're rotating fresh backs in that can give you different looks, we got the guy that started at LSU, and I don't even know if he's going to play this year.
Yeah.
That's how deep we are.
Yeah, and that's a good thing because he'll start next year.
Exactly.
He gets to be the dude in 2025 if that's the case.
Exactly. And he's a blue chip, man. The kid played at Notre Dame, got his degree, went to LSU, and he's going to work on, I assume, his master's at Ole Miss. So, it's just amazing. It's amazing.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. When we come back, we'll talk to Tom about which is the better SEC game, the number 3 home game on Ole Miss's schedule, Ole Miss or Mississippi State. So stick around for that. I do want to let you know that this show is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the place to get your Ole Miss tickets. They have killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and the lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Ole Miss tickets. There's not a bad seat in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium, but Game Time makes it to where you can see exactly what that seat looks like from the seat before you buy the tickets. They have the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation, job loss protection, all of the customer service stuff that you're probably looking for. You can take the guesswork completely out of buying Ole Miss tickets with Game Time. And with this being the most anticipated season in Ole Miss history, I might be able to help you out with tickets as well. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I love sports. I love them so much I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer and fewer games, and the sports just stop sporting the way we want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep these sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up any bets anytime I am in the mood. Maybe I'm in the mood for Ole Miss over-under of 9.5 wins this season, or Jackson Dart at plus 1,500 to win the Heisman, or Ole Miss at plus 1,500 to win the national title. This summer, I can do that. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all of that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you each and every single day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, all streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, Tom, I was sitting here thinking, like, obviously the number one circled game on Ole Miss's home schedule in 2024 is the Georgia game. Number two would be obviously the Oklahoma game. So those are the top two games on the schedule. So I started wondering what was number three. And the two games that were going against each other were Kentucky at the beginning and Mississippi State at the end. And I genuinely don't know, because I think Kentucky is probably going to be better than Mississippi State, but the Egg Bowl is just going to be so fun to beat them 45-0 again.
I agree. I think that as far as what we hoped for in the season, I think the Kentucky game to me means more. Because it's it's in the beginning of the season. We want to start out fast out of the gates. The State game, I think State's going to be a little bit better than a lot of people are giving them credit. But they just don't have the horses right now. And so this year it'll definitely be a growing year for them. Now, don't get me wrong, Levy's going to find a way to put points on the board.
Going to find a way to give them up too.
Yeah. And but that defense, I just don't know. They lost a lot of 5th and 6th year players off of that defense. And we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I would the Kentucky game, I'm more concerned about it because they do have the better team. I think Kentucky finishes in the top half of the SEC this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Now you got to remember we got 16 teams, so I'm talking 8th.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but they're going to be pretty good.
Yeah, top half in the SEC is still top half in the SEC, especially when –
Especially in Oklahoma joining.
Yeah. So, what games are you looking forward to this season? Not necessarily Ole Miss, just period. You can't wait to cut the TV on that game. What does that look like for you?
I was talking about it today in one of our meetings. The Florida State Georgia Tech game, man. Let's rock and roll. Let's get this thing started. I think Georgia Tech's going to give them a run for their money.
Brian Smith, who is the Locked On recruiting czar that comes on and talks all that, he thinks Florida State's just going to run away with it. I just don't think so. I like Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is that team that I randomly root for, and honestly, I want them back in the SEC.
I would love if the next expansion, are you hearing me, SEC? Mm-hmm. I would love if the next expansion was Tulane and Georgia Tech.
Exactly. Let's go ahead and fix all of this stuff. Bring Tulane back in. Bring Georgia Tech back in. I don't care that Tulane's playing in a 25,000 seat stadium. Make them upgrade it to get it to 40,000. But if you have Vandy in the league, you'll be fine with Tulane. But yeah, I think that would just make all the sense in the world, and it would just be a full circle type moment.
I completely agree. I think it would be wonderful.
So August 31st, the Furman Paladins, the number 9 ranked Furman Paladins. This is an FCS top 10 team. Now, shouldn't be a problem. Ole Miss should win the game. Ole Miss should win the game by 40 points, honestly, if we're going to be real. But Furman runs one of those military academy style offenses. They can do things a little bit weird. They're probably going to figure out a way to scheme open a touchdown, really the same way that Mercer did against Pete Golding in the first play last year. Does everybody remember the first play?
Oh,
with
yeah.
That new defense going on the field, giving up an 80-yard touchdown?
Yeah.
I think Furman's going to be able to do that, because if you think about it, these offenses can be weird. I think it was Chattanooga or somebody like that against Alabama like 10 years ago that put like 350 yards on.
Exactly. Yeah, and look at the service academies. I mean, if they're well coached and they execute properly, they're going to put up points.
Yeah, it's one of those things. That offense exists for a reason. And that reason is you don't recruit the type of players that can play in that offense, which means they can get them. And B, it's difficult for the other team to prepare for, especially on short notice. The benefit that Ole Miss is going to have, although it's not much of a benefit, is the fact that they're not going to be, they're not going to be very short notice to prepare for it.
Exactly. And they've had this whole fall to prepare for it. I'm sure they're preparing for other games as well, but yeah, they really need to execute well on defense. I think I'm talking about us. I think it'll be fun to watch. I think it'll be much more like Mercer last year. I think they'll have some early success, and I think we'll shut them down.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and people need to realize during fall camp and these things, there's usually a period a day that they don't tell the team that they're doing scout team stuff, but they script the plays to make it to where it's kind of scout team work on the first 2 or 3 opponents of the season. So whenever you get into game week, it's not like, hey, we're going to learn all these new things. You also have a little bit of a base.
Exactly. Yeah, and I've said this a million times, but I have full confidence in our coaching staff. I can't remember where we've had a better coaching staff than we have this year.
Yeah, you would probably have to go back to one of the vault stats for one that is this stacked.
Exactly. I mean, just think about defense. We got State's old head coach. We got B. Brown. We got Golding. We got all these good coaches.
The former coach of the New York Giants.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I almost think that Lane Kiffin is going to be the new Saban as far as, coach rehab you.
Yeah.
So, I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's really great. And you're right. I mean, Lane Kiffin is absolutely going to be the coach rehab place because that meant a lot to Lane Kiffin, that what Saban did for him, and he's trying to pay that forward a little bit.
Exactly. And did you happen to see his interview where he talked about his dad?
I have not seen that yet. The thing on Marty and McGee?
Yeah. Tearjerker.
Yeah. It's one of those things. I'll probably look at it at some point. So what do you got going on this weekend? I am doing antiquing with the wife Saturday. It's the last Saturday that I have until February, so I have to give it to my wife.
Oh, I completely understand that. We are probably just going to hang out and try to relax because this is the last full weekend before football season, and then my wife becomes a football widow.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I get to do lines on Monday. It's going to be fantastic once I start getting into the routine. It should be really fun.
Awesome.
Thanks again go ahead.
Oh, I said I'm glad it's finally here.
Yes, thank goodness. Thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Tom Vanderford joins the show every week, starting here pretty quick. He's going to end up on Friday nights, but he's on Sunday morning right now. I'm Steven Willis, Locked On Ole Miss podcast. You can check it out. We have practice reports from Michael Katz, David Eckert, John Macon Gillespie, Zach Mareth. We have all the perspectives in the world, and that is kind of our thing. But Tom, thank you very much for stopping by, and we'll talk to you next week, bud.
Yes, sir. Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy.